So, welcome to Ley Lines, Conscious Conversations and Connections with incredible people, incredible humans doing extraordinary things for humanity. Today, I am so blessed to have in my presence this absolute angel. Inga Dennett is here, and I met you, well, I think I met you a year ago. It was at Leadership Alive.
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to you by the beautiful Tracy McMahon, and she actually described you as being an angel. And I don't know if you knew that, but she said she's like a walking angel. And so, welcome. It's so wonderful to have an angel on my podcast.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Inga, you are a busy homeschooling mum. But there's so much more to you. Look, and definitely not going and discounting the fact that you do homeschool as well, because oh my gosh, it's a big job. It's a big job. And I'm guessing that knowing you, and I mean, I don't know you really, really closely, but I would imagine that you're teaching your daughter not only the maths, the English, all of that, but you're teaching her about life. Is that right?
Yeah, it's I found homeschooling's more of a unschooling me process,
Oh,
and how I've been, through life and my learnings, and the more that I just drop into presence with her, because we're 3 years in now, so we've had a bit of time.
oh wow,
Um,
yes.
the more I get out of my own way, the more we learn through life. So yeah, very much focused on emotional intelligence, nervous system regulation, nervous system awareness, and um, just being mindful of ourselves, what's going on for us within, and also noticing what's happening for other people, and not, you know, projecting it or buying into it or taking it on. So there's a lot we do that might not seem to have society sort of value,
Yes.
given the work that I do and the place that I've come from. I really feel like that's going to set her further ahead than the other stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And how often is she the teacher and you're the student?
Oh, 90% of the time.
I thought that might be the case. They teach us so much, we just don't even realize what our little ones, all of the wisdom that they have within them, whether they've brought it from another life or whether it's just always been there. And because of their innocence, they're able to show us so much about ourselves as well. They can be quite a mirror.
Absolutely. And it's very much like we had a situation arise yesterday, and as she was, emotional, and it was unfolding, it was almost like a replay of a situation that I'd had with my mum at a similar age that I just witnessed in her. But this time I got to make the change then and there that little me didn't get for years to come and held on to. But because I've got that awareness and insight, I could see what was happening and really had to get into my uncomfortability and just surrender to it and give her what she needed versus being stuck in my own stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting that you say that too, because we look at, and when we start talking about what you do besides being the incredible super mum that you are, um, it's amazing how we can carry on our trauma patterns from our own childhood. And of course, that goes down both the maternal and the fraternal lines as well. And we'll bring that through into the next generation. I know myself. I've done it with my children. I've tried not to, but the human in me still brings some of those chains that haven't been broken into their existence. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is such a learning. It
Mm-hmm.
really is.
Yeah.
So I hope I haven't given away too much, but I want to tell all of the listeners here that Inga she works as doing family trauma healing, for one, but also you work with nervous systems as well, yes?
Yep.
Tending to
Yep.
nervous systems, and you also can shift pain to joy.
Yep.
So, which, that I'm looking forward to speaking about this. This is really, really interesting. But first of all, I just want you to, people are going to think, what is family trauma healing? Where does this come from? How did you get into it? All of those things. So if you would like to just speak into that now, I'd love to hear about it.
Yep. So around 2020 is a big year for everyone, but the start of 2020 I had a nervous breakdown from the work that I was doing. So I'd worked in the community service sector for about 20 years, and most recently, up until that point, was 5 years in the suicide intervention and prevention, so being on the ground with people who were actively suicidal. So and I was also working in Brisbane, driving from the Sunshine Coast, so there was a lot going on, and I essentially had my first ever panic attack on the highway near IKEA. I'll never forget the spot. And essentially I was like disassociating from myself whilst driving, and it was, very full
Dangerous.
on. Yeah, dangerous and awful. And so, consequently from there, I wasn't able to work in that job anymore. I wasn't able to work at all. I couldn't drive on highways. I think it was for 6 months. I really just drove Iselle at that point to school and back, which is 5 minutes away. Even just taking the dog for a walk around the block was just, I just really, had a complete nervous breakdown. So my nervous system had been operating in that sympathetic response. And we all reach a capacity at some point, and it was that time. So over the next, I think it was probably 7 months, I really had to do what I preach to people is my meditation teaching. I had to do with myself. So I really had to sit with myself and begin to witness what was happening within my body. And I spent a lot of time in meditation. And then it was my 40th birthday in the July, and somehow I'd come across Mark Wallen, who is the author of It Didn't Start With You. And my dad gave me a voucher for a book purchase, so I bought his book. And I was just like, this is like life-changing. For some reason, I was really attracted to the generational and ancestral trauma space. So then I'd seen that he was having a course that was coming up, and I didn't know if I was in the position to do it given what I'd had going on. But I was told it was the last one he was doing as in person. The rest of them would be available on replay and all that kind of stuff, but this would be, so I was like, okay, so we're going to do that. So I did that, and then really the only people that I could go back to who were the eldest living people in our family system were the grandparents on my mum's side. So the grandparents on my dad's side I'd never met. They were in England, and there was a lot of disconnection between them and my dad, and we'd never met, so they weren't available, but my mum's were, and I was really close to them. So I decided I'd take a drive to Toowoomba and sit with them and record them and ask them questions about their lives. And I think it took a day, and I was lucky because I had an ancestor who I'd never met, a cousin, and a second cousin or something, who'd done the physical generation, like the family tree stuff.
Great.
I was particularly interested on my grandmother's side for some reason, because I feel like that's potentially got the most trauma in in the system that I was actively involved in. And so, I sat with her. So I had the physical family tree, and then I had her information, and just what came through about, she was one of 10 children. Her mother lost a 2-year-old and then still had to parent, and all this kind of stuff. And just it gave me such an awareness of how the pain of the women in the line has been passed down, and the inability or difficulty in connecting with daughters and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, from there, I continued to work on myself for probably the next 5 months to get myself to a point where I could actually move into a space that was healthy for me, but also was still helping people, because that's what I'm here to do. So, yeah, amongst that, just become more mindful of myself, my nervous system, its needs, and really practicing a lot of self-care. So then I opened my own space just off our home in 2021, and yeah, started seeing people in the ancestral generational trauma space. So that's how I got started in that. So I'm a qualified counsellor and qualified meditation teacher with the background in a range of community services stuff. And at the culmination of that, really, there was a lot of penny dropping moments, especially, you know, in the youth work area. I was working in residentials where kids have been taken away from parents, and just yeah, the generational stuff that flows down through there. And yeah.
Okay, great. So can I ask, in a normal session, what does that look like? Because people are going to want to know. They'll be like, so what do you actually do during that session? You know, how do you draw this stuff out of people? How do you find out where trauma has come from?
Yeah, so initially, the initial session's 2 hours, and essentially I'm asking questions about what's your biggest pain point at the moment, like what's impacting your life most negatively at this point. And we start there, and I ask a series of questions that sort of excavate the information I'm looking for in possible links to traumas that might have happened to people in the past that nobody has spoken of, because a lot of time in the family, pain is too much, and so we just don't speak about it. But the body and the nervous system has a way of bringing everything up at times around the similar age when the trauma happened for the person in the family system.
Yes.
And then we move on to, I just put together, we call them a traumagram instead of a family tree. So I'm looking at what's gone on for mum and dad, how did they meet, all their stuff around any knowledge we have around their childhoods and all that sort of stuff. And then we start to make connections, because I'm all about all this work is all about bringing awareness to what's happened to the people before us, to bring a little bit of compassion to them as to why they may have behaved the way they've behaved, or the way the family has disconnected as a result.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about, so say my grandmother's generation. So I'm in my 50s now, and my grandmother was born, I think, in the 20s, 1920s, around there. She's no longer with us. And that particular generation kept a lot of their stuff hidden because it was taboo. You know, you didn't talk about your business. That was just not, that was, yeah, totally unheard of. So how, you know, when we've got that generation in there in between myself, mum, and that generation, how do you delve into that? How do you find out the information? Or do you just know, well, there's a possibility because of that generation that there could be trauma attached?
Yeah, I generally find in most situations there is someone in the family system who knows something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a matter of opening up the dialogue, in connecting with that far off auntie who nobody connects with because we just don't. And then I'm saying, okay, so maybe there's something in that. Do you feel comfortable in reaching out to that auntie? Maybe there's a reason why that's happened. So generally, yeah, there's always little bits of gold that I find we can come across. And yeah.
So you're almost like a generational detective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. Hey.
Yeah.
Wow. And so from that, and the reason why I'm asking for the listeners, I'm asking with so much interest and so really, really delving in, is because I knew what Inga did, but I didn't know how and what it was, how it all worked together. And so I'm really delving in because this is so interesting to me, because I know that back in my line, especially the maternal line, there's been a lot of trauma, and I have been a chain breaker in that trauma. Although, sometimes it still goes and rears its ugly head when the human comes up in me. Um, so, uh, I really find it so interesting that you're able to go and, do this detective work almost, but I'm sure it's very spirit led as well, because I got that from you the very first time I met you, that you're not just working with facts and with logic. There is an element of you working with something much higher than yourself as well. Um, and I think that it's absolutely brilliant. Now, you talked about pain points there, finding the pain points. When
Hmm.
you talk about pain points, do you also mean physical pain? Because
Yeah.
that be? Yeah. Okay. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, so it could be like chronic pain. It could be suddenly you've got some sort of injury that you don't know how you've gotten. Yeah, you could be terrified of childbirth, but you don't know why you're terrified of childbirth. There's so many different things that could be showing up. Um, yeah,
So it's almost like trauma has an echo that goes and moves through each generation.
yeah,
And it might not even be known to you as to why you are feeling the certain way you are, or you're stuck, or you're depressed, or anything like that. But it's actually an echo that has gone and moved through the generations.
yeah. It's yeah, it's what do I say it like? It's I find that trauma is always trying to be seen in every generation, in every person who
Hmm.
comes into the world, but it's only if we give it time and space. If sometimes we get taken out like I did, and I had the space to notice and give that the time and space to be seen, and it's taken me here where we are today. But yeah, essentially it's always trying to, and that's why I feel like there's so many people in suffering that can't logically and rationally see why they might be feeling the way they are or behaving the way they are even.
Yeah.
And until we go into the layers, then we begin to see that there's a deeper reasoning for what might be showing up in someone's life.
Mm. All right. So, my next question to you, 21 questions here. Nervous system tending. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing this has something to do with regulating the nervous system. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if someone was to work with me, that's where we generally start, because to do the generational stuff, you've got to, or we've got to have a capacity to be able to sit with stuff that shows up that might be uncomfortable and difficult, if we're going to give it the time and space that it deserves to be seen, witnessed, and then healed. So nervous system awareness comes through my, I guess, previous work, my studies, and the meditation aspect. In For a lot of this population, I don't feel like we're not taught about how we're feeling, how we're responding, how we're reacting, and how we can regulate ourselves through our breath, through that extended exhalation, and that we don't actually have to give responses and reactions to everything in life. And yeah, that's where we start. The nervous system awareness is our starting point, and then from there we build capacity to feel what we need to feel without being overwhelmed and completely dysregulated by it. I call it building inner safety. That's where we ultimately begin, because if we can't and don't feel safe within ourselves, we're going to seek that externally from the world outside of us through all different means until we pass, or until we get to a time where that's not working for us anymore and we decide to make change.
Yeah. And I mean, there are many people, well, the majority of people in this world will go through their whole life holding their trauma within them. And it will either come out, they will go and sadly go and project it upon people, usually that they love, or it'll just sit inside them, and sometimes will actually cause disease within their body as well, or disease within their body. So it's incredible that you're able to go and work with this and to bring this sort of stuff out. It's interesting because I think, of the generational thing that's gone on, say with men, for instance, where they're told, stop crying, that's not what boys do, toughen up, all of those things, and women are told that too, but especially it seems to be with the masculine, that they're told you're not a man if you cry, etc. That's all really coming from a very wounded space. And if you are suppressing all of that, where is it being held in your body? And
Yeah.
I'm guess, is this where you see the pain coming up in people's body because they are suppressing all of that?
Yeah, it's coming out in chronic pain. It's coming out in injuries. It's coming out in like mobility issues. It's coming out in just disconnection, essentially, with themselves, ultimately, because they've left parts of themselves in the past because it was too painful to show those parts of self in childhood, because you get a certain reaction or response. Essentially what we're doing is we're bringing people back into wholeness so that they can move into life and through life from that place of connected inner safety without the burdening of the ancestral pain and the childhood stuff, and can come to life from a more regulated nervous system space with more clarity and choice.
Brilliant. So I want to ask you this question. This is from me asking you as a professional. So me being ex-army, and my body really got quite, what's the word? Hammered, battered, yeah, broken. And they are words that I have definitely heard myself speak to myself as well. And we all know that, as we speak, we are. And having lived with chronic pain, and I can think of a couple of people that are really, really close to me that are also going through this. Could it be that some of that chronic pain that I have experienced could actually be remnant stuff that I'm holding on to as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. But you
And
would have to
it's
go and do the detective work.
and also, it's not so much, I think is it Gabor Mate or Dan Siegel, it's not so much about the traumas that occur, it's what happens after them. So, I see it in my interactions with my daughter all the time. There's things that happen where she has a reaction, and if she's left alone in that reaction, that can then bring about different behaviors and responses for her the next time something similar is felt within her body. But if she's in connection, and definitely when we're in high emotional times together and there's disconnection, which is inevitable because we're human, it's a matter of me as the regulated adult to reconnect with her, to show her that despite disconnection, we can come back together, and you don't have to leave these parts of yourself here where you are at this age. You bring that with you because you're loved no matter what's going on.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to stop for a second because I feel like really discombobulated at the moment. So and I know why. I mean, I've gone through a lot of trauma in my life.
Yeah.
And so, my mind's going, whoa, holy,
Yeah,
whoa,
probably.
this is huge. This is huge. Um, and I don't know, I may not end up going and editing this, but, I'm just really noticing as you were speaking about this, how much it resonates with me and how much I know that it would definitely resonate with my maternal line. And I look back, I see my mum, I see my grandmother. I don't know any further back than that. I mean, of course there were. I
Yeah.
mean, I also know I have some powerful women, if I go back even further, that were healers. But um, my mum, she suffers from chronic pain and she knows that it's got to do with trauma for her. And yeah, it was really funny then because I actually, as you were talking, I started disassociating and I thought, what is this? Where is this coming from? Yeah, it was like you were talking and your mouth was moving, but I wasn't hearing what you were saying.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. It
And
was
it's
that
actually,
to like what was going on for you as I was saying that was a
yeah,
memory coming up.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how it works. I'm guessing that is actually how it works. Yeah. And so I guess when that happens and I go into that disassociation, that's when there's an opening for you to go, okay, so what was that about? Why
Yeah.
has that come up for you? Can you associate it with stuff that's gone on in your past, or can you think about what has happened in your mother's past or your grandmother's past? It's just wild, this link, this chain effect that happens. And I've always sort of gone, oh, it's so cliche how we say, we're breaking the chains. But there really are those links and those chains there. And
They're
our
invisible until
yes,
we bring them into the visible.
yes. And I mean, I can really, I don't have the words proudly say, but I look at my daughter and, I love what you're doing with your daughter. I think it's beautiful. But I look at my daughter and she is so empowered. She is so powerful. She is so sure of herself. And I just think, okay, I must have done something
Mm.
right because I know they're watching us. They're watching everything we do. And I mean, I also go into beat me up mode over the things that I haven't done right over time. And I know that the things that I haven't done right over time have been trauma related. So yeah, there's a real awareness there of my actions and of the actions of previous generations, both on the maternal line, but also on my father's side as
Yeah.
well, or even grandfather. It's wild. It is wild to see, and it's so wild to see how we'll go and make similar decisions to our parents as well. I mean, look at me. I think I was eighth generation, even though not the Australian Army, eighth generation Army.
Yeah, right.
So I've kept that
Yeah.
pattern going.
Yeah.
That I mean, you can't make that up. It's
Did
wild.
that come out of nowhere for you? Like, was that a surprise for you, or was it something that was there was an undertone of it throughout your life
I
that
think it wasn't until Dad told me, "Oh, I think you'll be the eighth generation." I knew that my grandfather was in the they call it Grenadiers, I think it was over in the UK, but it had gone further and further back. I had no idea. So yes, I think what you're doing is so valuable. I think the listeners out there too, as you're listening now, I've come back into my body again.
because we can always stop and we can, breathe and we
No,
can.
well, I wanted to, but then I thought, no, I think this needs to keep on going. This is quite, it's confronting but incredible.
It's in motion, it's live, it's happening in real time, and that's what this work.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I know there are so many people out there, and it's on the rise as well, that are suffering from chronic pain. And whether it be from some external factor that is maybe a medicinal factor, or whether it be that it is going down the lines that you are working with, there are people that would find the work that you do so valuable. I mean, I don't know. Do you know any statistics on chronic pain? I would be very interested to know.
No,
Um,
I don't.
I think it's enormous.
Yeah.
And people don't want to talk about it too, and they quieten the fact that they have chronic pain because they don't want to be a burden to people, or they totally own their chronic pain, and it manifests even more in their body. So for you to be able to go and work with those pains of both the mental, the physical, the spiritual, wow, I don't know why you're just not. I mean, I don't know. Are you inundated? Are you just inundated with people
No,
meeting?
not a lot. No, I'm not. Like, I've got regular people, but yeah, because it's such a big task, I think it's such a, it's
It's a
got to be,
process.
it's a process, and it's not quick.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
you've got to have a commitment. You've got to, a lot of people are at a point where they've tried everything else, or they're just sick of how they are. So you've got to almost get to a certain point before you give it the time to invest in it.
Yes. And we're living in quick fix world. We're living in a world, we're living in um TikTok world where you get your 15 seconds of dopamine. And you think that that's going to be the answer.
Yeah,
Whereas all good things take time. That
absolutely.
saying is so true. All good
Yeah.
things take time. And yeah, I guess this is where resilience comes into play. This is where if you really if you want anything in this world, you need to do the work.
And the payoff, I think, is now that I'm in a space where I am being so attuned to my nervous system and the nervous system of others. That's
Mm.
been my life, being
Yeah.
very empathetic, but having an awareness now of other people's stuff doesn't have to be mine, and I'm not going to fix it. um, it opens up our capacity to shift through the pain into joy, and also to notice when life is giving us certain signs to take action on, and having the capacity to be courageous and brave in asking or following the breadcrumbs. That just it just brings you into a place of, you can't make this shit up.
One of our favorite sayings, isn't it, Inga? There's a few of us out there that just love that saying.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm, yeah, it's interesting to go into overwhelm and then to really think about the value of what it is that you can bring to people's lives if they're willing to do the work, if they're willing to take the time out, if they're willing to be confronted, because that's a big thing. A lot of people aren't willing to go and confront whatever has happened in their life or even their parents' life. I don't want to know. That's their stuff. But if we're wanting to heal, and I mean, I can't think of a better person to do this than you, who has been through
Mm,
the darkness,
mm,
in order to be able to come into a space of being the light for others.
mm.
And I know as healers, because we are here, you are a healer in your own right with what you do, just as I am. We have our different medicines that all of us have had to go through the refiner's fire in order to be who we are today. And if I had have missed that step, I definitely wouldn't be going and healing other people, because I needed
Absolutely.
to know and just as you do, we need to know what people are actually experiencing. So I want to ask you now your 3 non-negotiables. What are your 3 non-negotiables? Now, this can be your 3 non-negotiables to make your life complete, your 3 non-negotiables when you're doing the healing work. Just whatever you want. There's no rules.
3 non-negotiables. So I would say meditation is a non-negotiable for me every day. So starting my day with meditation, just so I can connect in with myself before I connect in with anyone else in the world and the world around me. And so I can be guided because I'm connected. That's my first non-negotiable. Second one is, because of my experiencing in the workspace and probably in life and being around people who project their pain onto others because that's what they know, is to not be in workplaces where that behavior is the norm and accepted and celebrated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my third non-negotiable would be to follow my inner guidance despite what I'll be met with.
Okay, so you use intuition a lot.
Intuition and the work I've done on myself in my inner safety being the be all and end all, which gives me the capacity to speak my needs and also to say no when things aren't mine.
Okay, so boundaries, big boundaries, which I think you'd need. I mean, doing the work you would need to have boundaries, just like I have to have boundaries. If I don't have them, I can end up in a whole world of hurt.
Yeah, and we're not perfect, right? So we're constantly being reminded, like, if we don't do things, we definitely feel it and we definitely see it.
Yeah, amen. I totally agree with you on that. I woke up this morning feeling a little bit worse for wear, and I was like, what have I not done? There's something I haven't done. And I've done a lot of healing work over the last couple of days. I hadn't gone and stood on mother at all. Hadn't gone and grounded and done that work and gone and dumped everything that wasn't mine that I'd gone and taken from other people as I was working with them. And so, it's so important to place those boundaries with the work that you do. I love it that you do meditation. I went and did Vipassana last year. And for any of you that don't know what Vipassana is, it's basically 11 days. They say 10, but you're actually there for 12. And you're in complete silence. You aren't able to have any interaction with anybody. And you do a lot of hours of sitting there meditating and being in your own stuff, because it brings up absolutely everything. And so, have you done it before, Inga? Have you done Vipassana? Yeah, very interesting. Um, but with your meditation in the morning, because I know with a lot of the people that are coming to me for healing at the moment, a lot of people, when I say, "Do you have a morning practice?" They're like, "No," or "I've just started doing anything." Can you just explain to everybody, because you are a qualified meditation teacher, what are the benefits of meditation?
Well, there's so many, but and I think meditation can put people off because I don't know about you, but the first thought that might come to mind or image is that you're sitting still and you're in silence, and for a lot of people that's really hard to do. So meditation, I teach walking meditation, so it's it's being in connection with your body and your breath and the earth. And we can bring walking meditation in when we're rushing to pick the kids up and we know we have to take a breath, so we just walk. And it's in process, it's in life. The benefits are, lowered stress levels, more ability to connect in with the world around you, with the present moment, with being able to witness stuff that's coming up within yourself, whereas before you may not have been able to have that, giving yourself choice in how you react and respond as to what comes up or what is being said to you. It just opens up so much that before I did meditation, I wouldn't have even had any awareness of.
And I was speaking to Deb not long ago, and she said that she's very, very creative. And she said that is her meditation. So it doesn't have to just be sitting there cross-legged, singing Kumbaya. Um,
No,
it
it's
can,
whatever you're in flow with. So flow is like ultimate meditation when you're not having any thoughts. And I can imagine with the creativity, that's what you're doing. You're so focused on this that you're creating that you are in meditation.
yeah, yeah. That was the whole thing about Vipassana. It was getting to a point where you no longer thought. And wow, those first, I would say 6 days, thought of everything. I sabotaged myself. Oh my gosh, it was like, let's beat Sam up and break you down. It felt like I was going through basic training again, basically,
Wow.
without anyone doing anything because no one talked to you. It was just you and your monkey mind. And then you get to that state of you no longer had anything to think about. You'd done it all. I always remember a story of my mother. She went across from I think it was Brisbane over to Western Australia, and she drove across the desert. And all she had was herself for those however many days it was. And her mind just went blah, 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 went through everything, beating herself up, all of those things until there was just nothing left. So she went and did a meditation without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit of an art too, isn't it? It really is. If you're going to do the sit down thing, that is mastery.
Yeah. And it's also, I don't know about meditation being without thought. I think that can at times feel really unattainable for a lot of people. So
Yes.
I'm helping people to notice you're going to have thoughts. The mind is always going to give you thoughts. And then we get to choose which ones we give time and energy to, and the rest we just let go. But it
Yeah.
will always bring stuff up for us to think about.
Yeah. Yes, we are busy little human beings, aren't we? I I really appreciate what you are bringing here today and what you are doing for humanity. Um, it's a big job. It's a big job what you're doing, but it's also just so absolutely valuable. And I really hope that as listeners are tuning into this, that they'll be able to see the value in maybe there is something in here that really goes and either sparks interest or does exactly what it did for me. I went into shutdown for that moment. There was nothing. The whole world kind of imploded on me. And if you feel that, then for me, there is something to address.
Mm.
And I think that that's very, very, very valuable. Um, I did an intuitive pull for you of oil pull, I should say, and the oil that came up for you. And it's so funny because whenever I go and spirit goes and guides me to get an oil, I have a giggle as soon as I see the oil. So the oil that came up was chia. And the minute I think of chia, I think that's Inga because I feel like you are totally joy. I feel, I don't know, you have so much fun. The inner child stuff, you do quite a bit of that. I see your stuff on Instagram where you're playing and with your daughter and dancing and all of those things. I don't have the guts to do that. I probably need to do that to go and step into my inner child more. But you have so much joy, so much cheer, So it's radiant, and it radiates from you. From the moment that I met you, I thought there's something so special about her. I don't even know what it was, but it yeah. Do you have people say that to you often?
No.
Well, there you go. I'm telling you right now, I
Yeah.
believe cheer is definitely you. If I smell it now, I'm like,
I love cheer. It
oh,
reminds me of jelly beans.
oh, it's just you're edible.
Yeah. But I think to get to where I've gotten, I had to do a lot of work.
You
And
did.
the inner child stuff and the homeschooling goes hand in hand, because there's a lot of the time that I'm meeting the parts of myself that don't want to play, and I have to sit and play.
Yes, yes, yes. So, just before we finish today, I just really wanted to express to the listeners out there that well, this is my own personal opinion. I feel that what Inga is doing for the world is extremely valuable. I hope that you feel the same way as well. Although it can be very confronting, which you got to see me being confronted, uh, if left unaddressed, we can basically go to our grave with our song still within us. And that's not how I want my life to end. I want to be able to say that I have done everything, I've experienced everything, I have felt joy, I have felt love, and that there has been nothing that has held me back from being the most incredible version of myself. The only thing that can possibly stop me is the trauma that's still within me, or the trauma that's been passed on through the ages, because this could go back generations, so many generations back. And I really, I hope for all of you that if you feel in any way anything that I have felt during this conversation today, or even just looking at this beautiful angel and feel that she could be the person that may be able to help you to come out of the trauma that you have been feeling, or out of the pain that you may have been feeling, that you'll contact her and that you'll speak with her and that you'll go and do a service to yourself by starting to do the work. I'd love to just pass a little bit of time over to you before we close, just for you to share anything that you'd like to share, any wisdom, any love, anything like that, Inga.
Right. Well, I think, yeah, if anything resonates with you, especially if fear comes up, then what we do together is this beautiful dance of acknowledging fear, letting it exist, but also bringing in the safety that we all have available to us and within us. It's just a matter of us remembering and reconnecting back to that, so that when the fear does show up, not just in session with me, but in life, because we can have lots of things happen throughout our days, then we'll have more of a capacity to take chances, to make change, and to possibly shift out of that pain into joy and have experiences we just haven't been having.
Mm. Just the words stepping out of pain into joy, to me, that resonates so much, because that's what we all need in our life.
Yeah.
We all need to step out of the pain, out of the old stories, and step into joy, because we've got this one beautiful life to live. What are we going to do with it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Inga, for coming on here and sharing your medicine with whoever jumps onto this podcast. I do want to tell the listeners out there that Inga's handles will all be in the bio that I do with this podcast today. And please make sure to subscribe, because there are people that are going to be on that are magnificent, just like Inga is, and there will be someone that will be on here that will resonate with you. If it's not Inga, it'll be someone else. I just think you're beautiful, Inga. I just love you to pieces. And I am just so honored to be able to have you in this space at this time, and so grateful for the work and the medicine that you are giving to the world. And I hope that everyone out there can find their medicine and be able to feel absolute joy, step out of pain and into joy. Thank you, Inga.
Thank you.